Heimat and UMWELT, two German windows into being in the world. German as a language is particularly rich in words that express complex relationships between self, place, and perception. Two of the most evocative and philosophically charged among these are Heimat and UMWELT. Though distinct in etymology and conceptual focus, both speak profoundly to the human condition. Heimat to belonging and rootedness, and UMWELT to perception and the shaping of reality. Each term opens a different lens through which we can understand the interface between human beings and the worlds they inhabit. To explore them together is to travel through the terrain of identity, ecology, phenomenology, and even nostalgia. Heimat, belonging, home, and memory. The term Heimat has no direct English equivalent. It is commonly translated as homeland, home, or native place, yet these renderings fail to capture its full resonance. Heimat refers not merely to a physical location, but to the emotional, cultural, and even spiritual bond one feels with a place. It implies rootedness in a landscape, a language, a set of customs, and often a shared history. The word derives from the Old High German Heimoti, meaning home or household. Over time, Heimat evolved to represent a deeply personal sense of identity tied to geography. For many Germans, Heimat includes memories of childhood, familial bonds, regional dialects, foodways, and rituals that form an intimate map of one's internal and external world. However, Heimat is not without its political and historical burdens. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, it was invoked in romantic nationalist discourses that idealized the German countryside and peasantry. During the Nazi period, the concept was appropriated into the ideology of Blut und Boden, blood and soil, linking ethnic purity with ancestral land. In post-war Germany, Heimat became a conflicted and sometimes taboo term. Yet in recent decades, it has been reclaimed in more inclusive, pluralistic terms, representing not just birthplace but chosen communities and hybrid identities. Contemporary thinkers such as Hermann Bausinger and cultural historians of the Heimat film genre have shown how Heimat evolves with time, shaped by migration, memory, and globalization. Today, it may denote a Turkish German's neighborhood in Berlin, a diasporic longing for a place left behind, or a broader ecological sense of stewardship toward the earth. UMWELT, the sensory world of the organism. Where Heimat speaks to emotional attachment and cultural location, UMWELT introduces a different register, the perceptual world of the organism. The term was popularized by Baltic German biologist Jakob von Uexküll in the early 20th century, particularly in his seminal work, Umwelt und Innenwelt der Tiere, 1909, later expanded into a foray into the worlds of animals and humans. In Uexküll's formulation, UMWELT is the self-world of an organism, the subjective reality it constructs based on its sensory and interpretive capacities. For a tick, the UMWELT is defined by temperature and the odor of mammalian butyric acid. For a bat, it is sculpted by echolocation. For a human, it is shaped by language, culture, and cognition. Each creature lives in its own experiential bubble, responding not to an objective universe, but to a filtered world meaningful to its survival. This idea was revolutionary, introducing a form of biosemiotics that anticipated later theories in phenomenology and systems ecology. Uexküll's UMWELT is not merely the external environment, but a co-constructed, meaning-laden world. It connects to Edmund Husserl's life world, Lebenswelt, the subjective horizon of lived experience, and to Martin Heidegger's notion of Dasein, or being in the world. In the sciences, UMWELT influenced thinkers as diverse as Konrad Lorenz, Gregory Bateson, and Humberto Maturana. It remains foundational in disciplines as wide-ranging as cognitive ethology, ecological psychology, and environmental humanities. By insisting that no organism lives in a world of pure objectivity, UMWELT invites us to consider how perception shapes existence. Comparing Heimat and UMWELT. Although arising from different intellectual traditions, cultural identity on one hand, ethology on the other, Heimat and UMWELT converge in subtle ways. Both are concerned with the intimate relationship between subject and setting, between perception and place. Yet they operate at different scales. Heimat is primarily collective and historical, grounded in memory, identity, and belonging. It carries affective weight and is often articulated in terms of nostalgia, loss, or return. UMWELT, in contrast, is biologically precise and individually delineated, It is neither nostalgic nor moral, but descriptive, a framework for understanding how organisms navigate their ecological niche. That said, they can be mutually illuminating. One might consider Heimat as a culturally defined UMWELT, a world structured not only by senses, but by symbols, narratives, and shared practices. Conversely, understanding human UMWELTen helps explain why notions of Heimat differ so dramatically across individuals and cultures. For instance, a displaced refugee may reconstruct Heimat through food or ritual, forming a new UMWELT in a foreign land. Moreover, both terms challenge the Cartesian dualism of mind and world. Heimat refuses to see land as a passive backdrop, instead depicting it as emotionally and culturally inscribed. UMWELT, similarly, reminds us that the environment is never neutral. It is always apprehended through species-specific perception. Related concepts: Lebenswelt, topophilia, and dwelling. The conceptual field around Heimat and UMWELT is enriched by several other German and international terms. Lebenswelt, or life world, introduced by Husserl, refers to the background of everyday experience that structures meaning. Unlike the more biological UMWELT, Lebenswelt is social, historical, and interpretive. Yifu Tuan's topophilia, the affective bond between people and place, echoes Heimat and expands its applicability to global contexts. Gaston Bachelard's Poetics of Space also explores how intimate spaces such as homes and corners acquire layered emotional resonance, akin to the way Heimat is felt and remembered. Heidegger's notion of dwelling, wohnen, meanwhile, intersects with both concepts. To dwell, for Heidegger, is to live poetically on the earth, to let things be, and to be attuned to place. In this sense, dwelling encompasses both the experiential nature of UMWELT and the belonging implied by Heimat. Conclusion: toward a poetics of place and perception. The German concepts of Heimat and UMWELT reveal how language can crystallize profound truths about our place in the world. Heimat captures the ache of belonging and the story of place as identity. UMWELT decodes the lived reality of other beings and the phenomenological structure of experience. Together, they offer a powerful vocabulary for reimagining the relationship between people and planet, memory and biology, perception and place. In an age of ecological crisis, forced migration, and fractured identities, these terms serve not only as tools of analysis, but as calls to care, reminding us that to live meaningfully is to be rooted in both the world we perceive and the world we remember. Here's a 500 to 750 word article on the concept of worldview and its related terminology in psychology and philosophy, written in flowing prose and with UK spelling throughout. Worldview, the mental map of reality in psychology and philosophy. The concept of worldview refers to the fundamental cognitive framework through which an individual interprets, organizes, and engages with reality. It encompasses a person's deepest assumptions about life, existence, ethics, knowledge, and human nature. In both psychology and philosophy, worldview is regarded as the interpretive lens through which people see the world. Not merely what they see, but how they understand and give meaning to what they see. Though often shaped unconsciously during early development, worldviews can also be examined, revised, and consciously adopted. In psychological terms, a worldview forms part of an individual's cognitive schema, the mental structures that help to organize information and experiences. These schemas influence perception, decision-making, memory, and emotional regulation. Cognitive psychologist Jean Piaget's theory of schema formation offers a useful model, suggesting that worldviews evolve as people assimilate new experiences or accommodate their beliefs to fit new data. Similarly, developmental psychologist Robert Kegan proposed that an individual's interpretive system matures through successive stages of meaning-making, each shaped by more complex worldviews. In philosophy, the term Weltanschauung, a German word meaning view of the world, has been central to debates about epistemology, culture, and the limits of human knowledge. Coined in the late 18th century by Immanuel Kant and developed further by thinkers such as Wilhelm Dilthey and Martin Heidegger, Weltanschauung was initially conceived as a culturally shaped, historically situated set of beliefs. Dilthey argued that every epoch and society possesses its own distinct worldview, born of shared experiences and collective meanings. Heidegger expanded the idea, contending that being itself is always being in the world, Dasein, and thus inseparable from the interpretive structure of one's lived context. Worldviews are not static, monolithic constructions. Rather, they can be religious, scientific, humanistic, or ecological, individual or communal, narrow or expansive. In psychology, Carl Jung considered the worldview as part of the archetypal unconscious, suggesting that the way people view the cosmos often reflects inherited symbolic systems. Viktor Frankl, in his logotherapy, posited that one's worldview is central to the will to meaning, our search for purpose and coherence, even amidst suffering. Albert Ellis, the founder of rational emotive behavior therapy, addressed worldviews in terms of core beliefs, particularly irrational ones that can lead to psychological distress if left unexamined. Comparatively, in anthropology and sociology, the notion of worldview shares affinities with cosmology and cultural models. These represent the shared assumptions within a society about time, nature, morality, and identity. Meanwhile, in systems theory, the term mental model is used to describe the internal representations that guide behavior and perception, often aligning closely with the concept of worldview. Worldviews also bear a strong relationship to constructs like paradigm and Lebenswelt. Thomas Kuhn, in The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, introduced the idea of a paradigm as the overarching framework within which scientific inquiry occurs. When a worldview or paradigm no longer accounts for anomalies, a paradigm shift may occur, reminiscent of a personal shift in worldview due to trauma, spiritual awakening, or intellectual growth. The phenomenological term Lebenswelt, literally life world, refers to the immediate lived experience of individuals prior to abstraction. While Lebenswelt emphasizes the pre-reflective and experiential, worldview implies a more structured, articulated sense of reality. Other related concepts include ideology, which denotes a system of political or economic ideas often used to justify power relations, framework, a general structure for understanding complex phenomena, and narrative identity, the internalized and evolving story that individuals construct to make sense of their lives. What distinguishes worldview from these related terms is its comprehensive scope. It integrates metaphysical assumptions, what is real, epistemological positions, what can we know, axiological beliefs, what is good, and anthropological ideas, what is human nature. In this sense, it functions as a map of reality, a guide to existence, and a filter through which all perception passes. In an increasingly pluralistic and globalized world, awareness of differing worldviews is essential for empathy, dialogue, and intercultural understanding. Whether in therapeutic settings, educational institutions, or international diplomacy, recognizing and reflecting on worldviews fosters deeper insight, not only into others, but into oneself. Far from being mere abstractions, worldviews shape the moral, emotional, and intellectual texture of our lives.